Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. I think we're going to dive into a Homelite 330 today. Before I get it mounted up where we can work on it, just take a peek real quick. This one was fairly clean, but missing some parts, and I don't know why. To me it looks like it was run dry. The ignition switch is on. That's just my guess. But again, why is everything up here and the throttle handle? Why? I don't quite understand. So, we're going to try and get this thing running. And we need to figure out if the intake boot is bad. Now, I could just go ahead and drop some fuel in the cylinder and try and give it a rip. And see, if it revs 100% to the moon. If it did, that's a great sign the intake boot is bad. I want to get into this far enough to replace the duckbill valve on the fuel tank, because I have no idea if it's been done. And to get that far, we need to take a lot of stuff apart. See, it's a pretty clean saw. It's going to look pretty good. So, I guess, without further ado, we'll get to work here. Now, this needs a couple washers before I can possibly make this work. I see some gunk in the threads that may or may not jam me up here. No, that's going to work just fine. It may just look like I have a mess everywhere, and well, most of the time I do, but some of this stuff is staged in places that do make sense to me. Like those washers that I pulled out of that magnetic tray just now. That is exactly why those are there. Okay. Man, there's even light wear on the sprocket. Not bad at all. Alright. Now that we got it there, I think the first thing we ought to do is take the handle off. That is 100% in the way of just about everything that we're going to be doing. That stuff is from, but it certainly doesn't need to be taking up that half of the tray. The other mount is right down here. And rather than flip the saw up just for that one little piece, I'll just take it out. Just another socket head screw. Nothing special here. Alright, and the best way to get these off is like that. Not real glamorous, but they tend to get stuck in place. Alright. Now I will flip the saw over 100%, even though I wouldn't do this normally, but to give you guys a view of what's going on. Yeah, I know I can't flip it that way, thank you. Well, poo. Oh, kind of... Come on. Ugh. Oh, it's the bucking spike that's jamming me up there. It wasn't that. Well, crap. Then I'm going to do this. Okay. There are screws basically at the corners of the plate, this bottom plate, that need to come off. We need to get this bottom strap off. We need to get the starter off because it is also screwed to that bottom plate. So, before I get any farther ahead of myself, let's go ahead and get rid of the starter. Oh, great. You go in that box. Those are suspiciously loose. Very suspiciously loose. Okay, well, a little more cleanup is needed. I thought maybe I had had this saw apart before, but it does not appear that I have. Alright, so I can flip it back over, but I want to take note, there is an isolator screw right in here. And you know what? We're going to do this from the side. So you've got the isolator screw in here, you've got this bottom strap that has 3 screws in it. Let's go ahead and get that thing out of the way. And even that looks like it wants a little more cleaning. Okay. We haven't checked spark. I would be shocked. God, everything's loose on this. Somebody was doing something to it. This is definitely not one that I've worked on. I think somebody checked some vitals, and that's about it. So you know what we're going to do is the same damn thing. It's good to me. Just fine. Where did I rattle it? Oh. That nut came out of here. Normally I don't have the throttle handle cover off. Normally there's not a reason to take it off. Alright. We're going to pull this isolator screw out. It's just the head of it that's stuck in here. In the case, but if you leave it there, this will not come apart. Now these are pretty big, and when they come out dirty like that, that means we're going to find some significant sawdust and shazat in here. So this should just slip off at this point. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, ain't that nice? That's some good stuff. So yes, there will be some cleaning that needs to be done. I'm not throwing that away, I'm just setting it there. God, this is nasty. Yeah. Yucky poo! Ah, boy. Alright, let's right the ship here, so to speak. And we'll see if we can get the throttle handle off. Okie dokie. You've got an isolator here, you've got an isolator here. Don't attack those until you get all the guts out, okay? That's not how you want to do this. Oop, sorry. There we go. We got 2 screws on the carburetor and 2 hoses. The fuel tank hose is the one. I'll see if I can get you guys closer. I know better than to try this. And then we'll do something stupid like knock you over, or knock me over, knock something over. I don't know. There we go. So the hose that's coming from this side and up and over is the fuel hose. The hose is coming from down here up to that barb is your pulse hose. You should be able to pull both of those loose. Now that hose is not shot, but we'll assess as we get into here. If we're going this far, it may just get new hoses on principle. Now, be careful as you pull this hardware loose. There are special washers in here to make this choke plate move freely. If you lose those, or even reinstall them incorrectly, you will regret it. So pay attention coming off. You've got a special washer, see that, on this side, and you have a same special washer, but you also have a spring washer in there. Okay. So it's all got to go together like that. I'm hopeful that we won't have to go through this carburetor other than to just blow it clean. We will see. Alright, next is your oil pump, and if you still have oil in the tank, this is the part where it will make a mess on you. I have not checked to this point as to whether I have oil in the tank. Therefore, I am asking for trouble. And there is enough wet in there that I am probably still asking for trouble. Ah, what the hell? Live dangerous, right? Connection's just right down front here. If I see it start puking oil, I will thread a screw into it. Until then, it can hang out there. These two screws mounted. That holds the cover on. My rule of thumb with these is if you don't need to open them up, don't. There's some oil. So this thing was still primed and ready to go. Set that out of the way. And little Poopsie Dog is back. That just makes me fuzzy and warm inside. Alright. See how I'm doing that? You shouldn't be able to do that. This boot is not good. But now I'm questioning myself. I do have one on hand, thank God. So I'm sitting there spinning the boot, okay? Let me show you what these look like. Round on top and square on the bottom. Shouldn't be able to spin it. So, that boot is toast. And it would have screamed like crazy. And maybe burned itself up if you kept trying to do it. Alright, we need to get these two carburetor chamber screws out. There's the chamber gasket for the carb, and then the oil pump gasket down there. Those can stay in place for now. They're not hurting anything. You need to get these two loose that will let it float freely before we take these AV bolts loose. And then that's the little trick. So I've shown you where those are. Let me back this thing off and back you guys off so that I don't, well, like I said, knock you over. God, that dog irritates me. Okay. If only YouTube didn't have so many copyright laws, infringements, and whatever other silly stuff that we have now, and I could just play some Pandora in the background. Even if that meant I couldn't monetize the video, I would do it in a heartbeat. But that is irrelevant. It will still make your video unviewable in certain areas if there's some sort of a thing recorded. So, anyhow, whatever. Nothing I can do about it. Alright, so this one has the external cup washers. So grab this one and take it with you if you can. And you should be able to. Alright, so everything's floating kind of loose in here. This is the part that really gets people, and it got me. What you're trying to do is rotate the entire throttle handle off of the fuel tank at this point. See, that neck should be separate. Now, I can feel it moving. Sometimes they don't. And you really got to get rough with them. Well, what you're basically doing is trying to lift up and twist it this way at the same time so that you clear that rear AV mount. And you also want to remember to unplug your switch wires. And it should loosen up from the tank. And I think I just... No, I didn't. Well, this one's persnickety. This tank. God, I've never had one actually come off with the throttle handle. There it goes. See that? I had to just get it up and over. It's pretty violent. There's nothing extremely Yeah, easy about it. And now I'm getting some oil out of that hose. So I need to find a little tiny screw and plug it up. That's good enough. That felt, or a foam pad, is for the duckbill valve on the tank. And wouldn't you know it, that's been replaced before, and it's still good. Wouldn't you know it. But we still needed to get into here in order to replace that intake boot. Man, what a mess. These poor saws, they get so choked up with stuff. You know that stuff. Alright. Shouldn't be that floppy. Shouldn't be that floppy at all. So you've got on the bottom of this, I will not be able to show you guys in great detail because it just doesn't work. You've got, this is your oil pulse hose coming off the crankcase. That's your carburetor pulse hose coming off a different port on the crankcase. And then this is your oil feed line, this greasy ass mess right here. So you've got to unplug all that crap in order to get this thing loose and out of the way. Now you can see a heck of a lot more. See the broken boot? So we'll take this off, maybe. There we go. What a mess. Homelite sold these as an assembly with those hoses in place about like that. They're easy enough to just fix the hoses. So there's another shot of that broken boot. We're just going to go ahead and slip that out of there. Oh, did you see that? Hear that? A rubber boot shouldn't be crunchy at all. So that's going to go in the receptacle where it belongs. Now this gasket is loose. We're just going to hose that off and reuse it. There's nothing wrong with it. Same thing with the oil. Of course, we'll blow all the water and stuff out first before reassembly. Now the reed cage, I'm going to take some of the... Oh man, that is chunked bad. Okay. The reed cage is capturing all the crap that is loose right now. So what we're going to do is probably stop the video, and I'm going to hose everything off. I'm going to get it all cleaned out, get all the parts prepped, maybe start a load in the... Although this stuff, I don't know that any of this is going to need to go through the ultrasonic cleaner. Muffler looks pretty good. Let me zoom you guys back out. Muffler looks pretty good. I think I can hose. Oh, we're already here. We're going to go ahead and take this air shroud off just for cleaning purposes so we can get this thing fully cleaned. So we'll start with these up here. Normally this only has to come off if you're replacing the coil or the flywheel. And since we know that ours are good, the only reason we're doing this, I would say, is to clean. And in this particular instance, cleaning is a worthy reason to do it. So there's your other two screws. Note that the ground lead, the outer one for the, I think it's the outer one on the switch. I have to look at it. No, that wouldn't be. That's reversed, I think. Should be the inner one. It's on one of these screws, so don't forget that as you're going to reassemble. And I want to clean that off too. Okay, 5 total screws, and that should come right off. So, you know, there's a full leaf in there. That's probably not good for airflow. I've seen worse. I have. This is not terrible, But we're already to this point, why in the world wouldn't we just go all the way and clean it properly? So, let me do that, and we will come back. Okay, so before I get this thing mounted back in here and we start reinstalling, I want to bring your attention to something. Look down where I've removed the reed. You see that little hole down in there? That's from the factory. You can see it right there at that angle. I'm sure you can, right up here. So that was addressed in a service bulletin at one point, that due to the shape of the intake system, fuel could potentially puddle there if left in a downward position for too long, like at an idle, if the heavy bar pulled the tip down or something like that. And then when you pick the saw back up and it rights, that puddled fuel would come back and choke it out. Now, I'm like, that's weird. And I've actually sealed a couple of these with Moto Seal. But the reality is almost every 330 on the planet has lived like that forever, and it is not an issue. So, I'm going to leave it alone. I just wanted to call your attention to it because a few folks have noticed it over the years. And until we had those service bulletins up and we could figure out what the heck Homelite was thinking, it was just, yeah, left to our imaginations. And now we know, but it's still weird. At least I think it's weird. You guys may not. I don't know. Alright, let's go ahead and put this air shroud back on before we start messing with the reed system and the intake and all that stuff. We might as well just button up a few things. Leave it loose for the moment until we have everything on. I need to get that wire, ground wire, back in place. Do not want to forget that. You don't want to be to the point where you have the whole thing together and you're going to ground your switch and you're like, whoops, that won't work. And I set this thing further back so the bucking spike will just clear almost all of it up there now. But where, oh where, did I leave that wire? And let's bring this back in too. Alright. And make sure, there we go. Keep those wires where they belong. These had a bad habit of, unfortunately, going too close to the muffler and burning in half. So that's not a good thing. That's not what you want to have happen. I think that's a no-brainer. Alright. Let's get this. I am going to check on that washing machine. That doesn't sound great. Well, that was fun. I hadn't planned on doing that today. The drain. Thankfully, it was just for the laundry machine, but it had backed up. So, what sounded like water splashing on the floor in the background was water splashing on the floor in the background. So I didn't need that bullcrap. But hey, whatever. Thankfully, the bladder style jet, you know, poor man's jet basically, you put on your garden hose. Well, I put it on hot water and was able to blow it out before it made too much of a mess. Let's get this old intake boot out. Now, we got lucky. This one's not gooey. Too much. Some of these get crusty at one point and gooey at another. That one was more crust than goo. So, we just need to clean out the remnants in here of sawdust and any rotten rubber remaining. I just don't want it there. I don't think it's like wood where one rot leads to another, but why risk it? Alright. Okay, blow this reed valve out because it's kind of wet and gooey. So you'll note that there's only one way this reed block can go in, and that is this way. Try and put it that way, there's a little ridge there that won't let it go in. So, we get our intake boot ready here, and it just sits on top of the reed valve. There is no special order, just like that. You get your retainer plate that you hopefully don't lose underneath a paper towel. Slip it down and over. And away you go. And it's tight enough when these screws stop turning. Nothing more complicated than that. This is actually a simple saw to work on. That's it. All she wrote right there. Alright, so I've got this chamber plate, which also needs a little air run through it. Then we'll decide what hoses we're going to replace. At this point, the answer to that is none. They are all in good shape. And some of you might say, well, God, you're there, just do it. If they aren't broken, you don't need to fix them. Okay, these are not soft, they're not hard, they're just right. And this one has a spring in it to prevent it from collapsing. Now, my hose in my aftermarket kit has a thick enough wall you shouldn't have to worry about that. But, again, there's nothing broken here. We're just going to roll. Well, yeah, even that one looks fine. We're going to roll with it. So let's connect everything. We're going to do the oil outlet first. And we'll do this carburetor pulse. That damn styrofoam on my pliers. Okay. And then the last one we connect will be the automatic oil pump pulse. And that one's tough to get to because I'm trying not to crush that spring in the... There we go. Alright. So from here you need to get that intake boot fed up through. Now when you have a nice new supple boot and it's... you don't have to worry about tearing it, you can work the rubber around and get it up in there. And don't be afraid to put a little muscle behind it, just don't do anything stupid. And I can honestly say that I have never come close to damaging one of these new boots by doing the stuff I'm doing right now. You gotta get it up in here, in there. Then pull it back. Slip it in. See how it fits in the recess right there? We're there. So, hoses are connected, nothing's in a bind, nothing's kinked. Nailed it! Okie dokie. Let's grab the fuel tank. and the throttle handle. Even this hose is still okay, and we already established the duckbill is good. Now, every single time that little sponge is going to fall out, and every single time I don't care, because it's really, I have never come across a situation where it got a duckbill damaged by not having it. But because it's still here, sure I've got that, yeah. I'm just going to put a little dab of super glue here. And now it won't come off again. Because odds are good this saw will never be apart again. At least if it's taken care of. Alright. Just like that. Take the cap off. And we'll see if this thing can behave. Look at that. Look how easy that went back together. For how hard it comes apart, it goes back together pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to move you guys back so that I'm not constantly out of frame. There we go. Alright, so in theory, I have dropped down over that. I see that. Let's see if we can get an AV mount started. Oh yeah, we're living good today. Okay. Remember this upper one has some washers. So let's fish this one in place. And once we get this started, there's not a lot of ways that things can go out of alignment at this point. Like I said, don't fear these saws. This fuel tank going on and off the rest of the throttle handle, that little assembly is clunky. I'll say that, but it's not difficult. Don't let that scare you away from working on one of these. Alright, we're going to put the carb chamber back in place. Again, you guys saw where those screws were previously. Make sure you don't have any hoses crimped by accident. I only say that because I'm certain that I've done it before. Okay. We're in pretty damn good shape there. Before I get too far and forget, I want to get this chamber gasket back in, so I'm just going to clean this off and slip it into place. And there's only one way that it can go. And I need to find that way. What am I doing here? It should be like that right there, but I have it 180. Oh, how am I doing this? This is ridiculous. There we go, dummy. Slip it over the fuel hose. Swear that little dog is going to drive me to something. Next time I see their truck over there, I'm going to have the conversation. This has gone on for too long. Alright. There we go. There she is. Oil pump. Now this thing has lost whatever prime it ever had, so I'm going to hope for the best here. Sometimes these can be a miserable pain in the neck to get to prime again. I have an old video about that. There. I'll worry about that when the time comes. But I do want to hook this hose back up right now, so that whatever oil is still in the tank and has been quasi-pressurized by heat from being cleaned out, will help repressure or reprime this system. I don't know if you guys can hear that drain on the video. It's flowing now, but now it's even noisier. Okay, before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and connect the switch leads. And I actually don't know I had that in the right order. Now these are two different sizes. You can't cook them up, ouch, backwards. That is still, God. Yeah, that'll work. You just don't want to get it too close to the muffler. Okie dokie doo. I guess let's flip this and throw that bottom pan back on. And then we'll take a quick dive, into the carb. Let's see if there's anything we need to do in there. And I'm kind of suspicioning that there is not. We'll find out. Alright, so this should just drop into place. Now these long damn screws are all the same, but you got to drop them straight and get them to line up into the housing, because they can go sideways real easily and go off into la la land, and that does you no good. And fishing them back out when they've dropped like that isn't fun. Perfect score. Since we're already here, let's drop that bottom strap in, remembering that a nut fell out of it, out of the throttle handle here. So the question is I have the dexterity to get that lined up upside, oh man, I think I might have had it upside down. Things are going well, folks. Going mighty well. There it is. So let's start that screw first. And finish that screw. Okay, that's all we got to do on the bottom half of this saw. We can go ahead, now that that's in place, you guys can see from there that AV mount. I'm going to go ahead and slip that in. Hopefully I don't have this tweaked at an angle that makes it hard to start. Nope, there she goes, right in. I don't find that these AVs fight me that much. And for a 3-point system, I mean, all things considered, it actually seems to work pretty well. I don't see these things blown out all that often. Okay, I'm going to put the cap back on just so that I can't do something stupid there. We could drop the handle back in, or we could go through the carburetor. Let me grab a new bag here so that we're working on something clean. Now, being a ZAMA carburetor like this one I think is, confirm that real quick. Yep. This will have a check valve in the main nozzle. So far less likely to go bad, but if it does, you're driving that main nozzle out and finding a replacement, which is getting harder and harder to do. So I'm just going to do a diaphragm check here, and if this is not stiff, uh-oh, is it just stuck or is it stiff? Oh. And that's why we checked. Well, poo. That. Oh yeah. Shouldn't be able to hear it. Well, crap. Alright, I don't know if I have a kit on hand. So, I'll go off camera, real quick. See what I can find. We'll come back. Okay. We actually have what we need. Oregon version of the ZAMA RB3 carb kit will do just fine. This is my last one on hand, so we'll order another one. Okay. So ZAMA does use a 3-piece on this. The screen looks fine. Come on, slip in there. And then we have our gasket. Line that properly if I can. Ooh, that got folded. Package a little bit. I don't like that. I'll have to let the cover pull that into place. Not ideal, but hey. Sometimes life isn't ideal. Ah, you son of a... Okay, we'll do it this way. Maybe those pins will hold it. Maybe they won't. Ick. There's that much fluid in there. Damn it. Quit it. Yeah, this is gonna suck. Really? Ah, yeah, like I said, really gonna suck. That likes to fold so... Oh, come on, you miserable little puke. I don't like that. But it slipped in. Everything's laying flat. Whatever. Okay, let's deal with the metering diaphragm side. Let's see if it's as roached as that other side was. Hopefully there's not residue in here. They left me nowhere to pry on this one. Now, don't lose that little plastic disc. That is made of unobtainium at this point. Alright, before we go any further, I want to pressure test that. Come on, dummy. Rock solid. Okay. I'll go out on a limb and say that it didn't have much fuel in it when it went kaput. I always screw this up. I think it goes that way. It does go that way. I can get this. Oh, should have taken that off first. I can get this to go on and not have the pressure release. We know we're set. And it did not release, so that was a relatively straightforward one. Again, if we get some really weird operational things like right after it revs it dies, like it's leaning out, that's a symptom of that high-speed nozzle check valve being bad. And we're just going to hope that doesn't happen. See, that still would have functioned. There was just enough residue in there to stiffen up those check valves on the fuel pump side. All right, release our pressure, get that off of there. I guess I will save some components of this. I'm going to label them. That screen is the right size to be used in other places. So it'll go in that drawer, but the rest of this stuff is going to get labeled. If you don't work on a bunch of these, this isn't worth your time to do. I'll just do HL330. It was good enough for me. And that I will save and take in the house and order yet another one. All right. Set that to the right depth as we bolt her down. Yeah, that's right. Alright, which we're basically ready to do. So we're just going to slip this on. Keep these hoses, keep the hoses back out of the way. God, if I got that to the right setting right up front, by dumb luck, not quite. Feel around with the screw and you'll find it. But you want to make sure you're not cross-threading something, or you will be replacing that chamber plate. So I kept all this hardware in order, so this should go down somewhat smoothly. Now that thing ought to move easily, and it does. Alright, let's hook up pulse hose. The fuel hose. I think we should put a starter on this, put a spark plug in it, and a little more oil. See if she'll run, and oil. But I guess I have to grab the starter before I can install it. So this is kind of how it works. You've got your it's the starter spring, but it's the worm spring. So see how it's in this captured groove here. There were several different tweaks to this, the later style captured it in the groove. I think the earlier ones it was just floating out here. But the long and the short of it is the minute you pull it, that spring should be catching and pulling this starter drive up. And that's what's going to index into your flywheel and allow you to pull it over. Now it should drop in super simple, just like that. And try not to drop your screws into the flywheel, because then you're trying to fish them out with a magnet. So maybe that's an argument against putting them all in the way I did. But it would appear that this time I got lucky and didn't do anything overly stupid. Well, let's get some oil in this thing. There's still some in there. I'm going to hold out hope. It's even red oil, which is great because I'll be able to see it. Suppose that would have been an argument for... No, you would. Yes, you would. Did you see some? Yeah. Would have been an argument for putting Tygon on that outlet hose. You'd have been able to see the pump when it actually started expelling some towards the bar. But, oh well. This is me not losing sleep over it. Some fuel. That's enough. More. At least I think it is. Alright, I can't put that fuel filter in yet, or air filter in yet, because, boy, she needs cleaned bad. That's disgusting. Let's run this puppy back down. I have not put a spark plug in yet, which would be advisable before trying to start it. That does not look old. That has barely... It's an NGK, which I don't like. I don't like NGK spark plugs. They're not for me. But for every one of me, there's a guy that's... I wouldn't use a Champion to save my life. So, you know. Ford and Chevy. Said it before. Alright. Now, I do want to put a stinking handle cover on that. I don't know why that's missing. There's no reason to pull it off. Like I say, I had the part saw that went with this. So, you got your spring that goes on the safety trigger. I think that just goes forward like that. So hold it up. Yep, just like that. So you see how that's arranged? I'm holding it. Holds it in there like that. So when you're installing it, keep doing that. And then, once you get her to slip down, she stays. So that's kind of cool. Not everyone is that easy. What the French toast is going on here? Oh. Huh. It's not lining up. Okay. I don't don't know that I've come across that before. Okay. That was weird. Working as it should. What do you say, folks? We try to make this thing talk to us, and I'll just operate that choke plate manually. And then we'll see if she poops some oil for us eventually. It's a good sign. This thing's so out of adjustment. Okay, well, she runs, and I could finish tuning it, but that drip, can you guys see that? There must be something wrong with this damn fuel tank. Which is disappointing, to say the least, because now I have to take everything apart that I just had apart in order to replace the fuel tank. And hope that that one out there is good. So maybe this is why it was parked. And then the boot rotted afterwards. Hard to say not knowing. I don't think I need to show all that on video again. I'm just going to bust through this as fast as I can and get it done so that I can move on to something else. And we will come back when I'm certain that I've got it taken care of and see. We obviously haven't primed the oil pump yet, or if we have, we're not seeing evidence of it. So we'll come back. times can I drop that cap? Yeah, baby. We got it. So these, especially these diaphragm oil pumps work the best on a throttle blip. So it gives it a surge as you're, starting a cut. I don't know if that was by accident or by design. I just know that it is. So when you're trying to prime one like that, even though your neighbors will probably think you're a complete and total jerkwad, giving it a bunch of throttle blips, and having a little oil there that you can look at, you can see it. Okay? You can see the pump actuating, either through a bubble, or sometimes on a deceleration, you'll actually see it suck a little oil back in. And I know there's supposed to be a check valve in there to prevent that, so I don't know if that's just residual pressure that's receding until it's full of oil. I don't know why it does that. I just know with these models especially, you see it. So, there's not a whole lot left to do here. Where is it? I need to do some cleanup. And I want to torch this cover before I put it on to make it a little nicer looking. I need to clean that air filter out. Really, the only thing you need to do when you assemble this is make damn certain that you get that tang aligned in the choke. And if you close the choke and set it down like that, and then open it, and you see the choke open, you've got it. So, with the handguard models, the handguard goes down, those screws hold it in place. If you have a chain brake model, you're just going to screw that down, and you're done. So, there you go. That was an unexpected detour, but I guess one I'm glad did happen to me, so that if you experience it, you'll know what the heck it is you're looking for. This tank could be saved. What I need to do is put a better hose in here, because this one's leaking around that hose as well. But there was a leak somewhere on the top third of the tank that I could feel hitting me in the face. And I think it might be that rough spot right there. That could be patched. JB Weld will patch these tanks, okay? And don't be afraid of doing it. If you can't find one, or what you can find is really expensive, well, JB Weld isn't that expensive. Use it. You won't regret it. You guys have seen me do it on the Mini Mac. So, there you go. Homelite 330. When I am comfortable, this is going to need another test run, of course. That's my standard operating procedure. But when I'm comfortable that it is good to go, you're going to see a for sale video for this thing. So, hope this helps you guys a little bit as you're working on your 330s. Catch you on the next one.